Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honors, and glories to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that do endure well. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the members of the elect, the awful elect of the 1/3. Shalom. This is Brother Dawadaf from GMS Detroit Camp, coming at you with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKodash. And today I want to do another in transit video, all right? And this video comes with the inspiration of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai through a post video made by the elder Manat Zakba out of South Carolina. And just show you real quick.
All praise to.
And you see the basically the thumbnail here. All right, you see the thumbnail here. All right, you see the nature of this devil on this post. Okay, you see the nature of this devil on this post, and the first thought that came to mind is this proves that this devil is not your friend. All right, now the post reads: 78 years ago today, on December 1st, 1944, hundreds of African soldiers who helped defeat the Nazis was shot to death by the French army because they rightfully asked for their salary. Okay. Now I'm going to play a little section of the elder's video. All right. Then we'll get into the lesson.
Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. This lesson is going to be entitled The Thyroid Massacre. All right. And basically, I took an image, a snapshot of an image one of the brothers posted, and it was, other than just being infuriating, it was a little bit intriguing. I actually looked it up to see if it was true, because a lot of times we'll post things, different brothers will take snapshots of stuff and post it, and I want to know if the stuff is real, so I'll actually look it up and go find out what it is. So this is from the brother Yerumya, servant of Yahushai. I believe this is off of Instagram. Yes, Instagram. He put up this post. It says 78 years ago today, which was on December 1st. 78 years ago today, on December 1st, 1944, hundreds of African soldiers who helped defeat the Nazis were shot to death by the French army because they rightfully asked for their salary. And upon hearing that, of course, I was like, damn, that's low. But I wanted to look into it and see, number one, if it was really real, did something like this happen? And, and if it did happen, what were the circumstances surrounding, the whole thing? Now, right away, when you look into history, even if the so-called white man who is Esau will admit to such an atrocity, they're going to fudge the numbers. They're going to say, they're going to put their own spin on it. They're going to do different things. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But also, too, whenever we do these posts and stuff, we have to be well studied and find out what the real truth of the matter is, even though we will probably never find out the specifics, all of the specifics about it. So I figured I would look into it, look it up, and see, exactly what happened. So upon looking it up, I went to Wikipedia. Well, I didn't go into Wikipedia. I actually Googled it. I looked up French. I don't know exactly how I did it. I think I just said African soldiers killed by the French or something like that, and I just kind of had to sift through different articles. This one is the one that closely matched. I don't know if the word is correct. Thyroid. Being that it's French, it's probably got a different pronunciation. I don't know the pronunciation. So the way it's spelled is Thyroid Massacre. Anyway, let's read a little bit about it. It says the Thyroid Massacre was a massacre of French West African veterans. Now, right away, when it comes to the West Africa is where, the transatlantic slave trade,
Yeah, you had a great scattering, all right, of Israelites, okay, especially after 70 AD, all right. Even the years leading up into 70 AD, you had a great scattering of the Israelites, all right, escaping the persecution of the Romans, all right. So indeed, you had Israelites that went up into Asia Minor. You had Israelites that went up into the west and north parts of Africa. You have Jake fleeing into Europe. You know, Jake branched out, freeing the onslaught of the Romans. Okay, so it's important to know the history. Okay, scriptures say the righteous studieth to answer. All right. If someone were to ask you a question on that, well, how do you know those West Africans are Israelites? Well, you got to go into the history, break down where they came from and why they even were over there to begin with. You know. So yeah, you had a great portion of Israelites scattered, all right, in the north and west parts of Africa, especially that west part. Now, in that west part, that part was known as Negro land, all right? That's where they got a great bulk of Negroes from, all right, from that west coast of Africa, okay? Which that west coast of Africa is right next to the Atlantic Ocean, all right? So they got the slaves from that west coast, all right? Then made their way to that Atlantic Ocean, and from there they sailed out to their destination. And they didn't just simply get the slaves from West Africa; they got slaves from North. They got slaves from not just the West Coast. Because when you look it up, it tells you that the great majority of them came from the West Coast. But they also had slaves come from the north part of Africa, so on and so forth. So, it's a lot of history. It's a lot of history, definitely. All right, let's keep going.
In West Africa, or many were brought from West Africa, which a lot of them were Israelites. The majority of them were Israelites. Okay, the tribes of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin fled from the interiors in 70 AD. They fled from Jerusalem, and then went to different parts of the world, but mainly they fled to the interiors of Africa. And later on, a few hundred years later, were round up. Then they migrated, of course, to West Africa and were sold into slavery by the Hamites to the so-called white man, sold by the Hamites and the Ishmaelites, and and wound up getting sold over to this part of the world in the transatlantic slave trade by the Hamites as well. Hamites and the Ishmaelites, which are the Arabs. So again, the Thyroid Massacre was a massacre of French West African veterans of the 1940s Battle of France. Now, in that little thing where it said 1944, right? And that's around World War II time. Here it says, so it's actually got the exact date. It's got the exact date here. December 1st, 1944. Just like the article, or just like the post. So it says, West African veterans of the 1940s Battle of France by French forces on the morning of 1 December 1944. Now, I'm going to try to get through these words the best I can. These tirailleurs Senegalese units had been recently liberated from prisoner camps, and after being repatriated to West Africa, they mutinied against poor conditions and defaulted pay at the Thyroid military camp on the outskirts of Dakar, Senegal. Between 35 and over 300 people were killed. So what it basically says is they were repatriated, meaning they were taken back to West Africa after they had been liberated from prisoner camps. Now, like I said, the so-called white man is never going to tell you the full story, exactly what happened. He's going to make it seem as though he was justified in doing what he did. Now, going back to that post, the brother put up Obadiah 1 and 10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Whenever you put up a post like this, it can be misleading because it said African soldiers, but nowhere on the post does it say that these people were Israelites. You have to make sure you put that out there, because you have people thinking that Africans are Israelites, which they're not. They're Hamites. I mean, to those of us that's in the know, we understand what it means, but, just going forward, that would be something to think about. When you're going to make a post, you got to put more information than just that, because this looks like it's just some Africans. What do we care if just some Africans got killed up? But knowing what we know, a lot of Israelites are in Senegal, or came through Senegal.
Yeah, and for these different Jakes that don't believe that the people of West Africa are Israelites, well, where do you think you came from? Where do you think? Because they're quick to say, "Oh, the Negroes in America, you're the Israelites." Where did they get the Negroes from? Where did they come from? A great bulk of them came from West Africa. See, so these guys, they're all talk. They don't really research and they don't really look into the things that they're saying. All right. Where do you think they got those slaves from? Great bulk of them. Just look it up. Look it up. Look up where did the majority of slaves come from? All right. When you look it up, it's going to tell you the great bulk of them came from West Africa. Okay. So yeah. So this is how this devil gets down. I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then Lord's will grab some scriptures. All right. Or quote some scriptures, and that'll be the lesson.
Now let's keep going. So it only gives you a brief rundown right there. But if you go down here, it says background, right? And you see a picture right here that's very similar. Here you see these men with their hands up. So let's read a little bit. It says, during the Battle of France, around 120,000 soldiers from the French colonies were captured by the German forces. Most of these troops came from the French North African possessions, while around 20% were from French West Africa, influenced by Nazi racial ideology. Now, when you hear the words French West Africa, what does that mean? See, a lot of people really don't get it, that the so-called white man Esau has conquered pretty much the whole earth. And what he did, he's colonized. You had the British colonize some areas, you had the French colonize others, you had Spanish colonize other areas. Then so it's the same way now. The British, like I said, the English speaking, these different Edomites conquered different parts of the world, but together they're a consolidated Roman Empire or Edomite Empire. That's what they are. That's why in certain parts of the United States.
Yeah, and oftentimes people forget that, right? The French, they're Edomites. The British, they're Edomites. The Russians, they're Edomites. They're all different families of Esau. The small hats, they're Edomites. Okay? Those are all different Edomites. All right? But the lineage still goes back to Esau, Edom. All right? Doesn't matter what they so call themselves in this day and age. Each nation upon this planet Earth has a true biblical nationality. All right? So, hey, all those groups are still Edomites. All right?
You got French, then you got other parts of the United States. You got more British last names, French last names. Then you got the Spanish last names. Then you've got Polish and German, because we all divided up among these devils around the world. Like, for example, in America, when you deal with New Orleans, like Louisiana, what is that? That's a French. It was originally a French territory, New Orleans. That's why you got a lot of Levi down there, and a lot of people speak French. You got the French Quarter and this and that. When you go up into the northern United States, northeastern United States, it's what's it called? New England. That's more British. You used to be British controlled, and then you got other parts like Florida, or other parts of the country.
Well, and when you trace the history back, this whole land belonged to Gad. Esau came and basically took their stuff, took their land, and then had the nerve to put his name on it. Then enslaved the indigenous people that are already here. Ain't that something? Put his name on it. That's why certain names for these different states in America. All right, go back to an example, the French. All right, some of them go back to the British. All right, because you had different colonizers that came here to take over. But it's crazy. He took their land and then put his name on it. All right, what's that? Psalm 49:11. They call their lands after their own name. Roughly paraphrasing that scripture. But he's as it is written in Job, the 20th chapter, he had violently taken away a house which he builded not. All right, and he violently took it away from whom? From the tribe of Gad. All right, and he didn't build up America. All right, America was built off the backs of slaves, Israelites at that.
That have Spanish names, you see? And right now they kind of escaping me, but you know what I'm talking about out west, right? Arizona, which is Arizona. You got different parts that were controlled by different Edomites. Okay, and you had the French and Spanish. What did you have? The might be wrong. I'm kind of rusty on some of the history, but the French and Indian War. See, these Edomites have fought against one another for control of certain territories.
Exactly.
Back in times past.
Yeah, that goes back to down the 7th chapter. All right, you got the French-American War. You got the you have the Revolutionary War, right? Fought between the 13 colonies in Great Britain. You got the French over here. You got the Spanish over here. All right. I believe it was the French-American War, the Spanish-American War, and then the Revolutionary War. All right, which all those groups are all Edomites. All right, those are all Edomites. Okay, and that little horn in Daniel the 7th chapter is America. All right, and the French, the Spanish, and the British, all right, couldn't stand up against America. All right, America took them down. So the point being, those are all Edomites, all right, and they used the force of the sword in order to conquer the lands, all right, that they desired, that they really stole, all right. They stole from the native people, all right, and then they even had the nerve to subjugate them and force them onto reservations.
Yes. So just like here in French West Africa, you got portions of Africa where the people speak French. See, in the land of Ham, you got portions where people speak French, people speak English. You got certain colonies or places that were colonized by certain parts of these Edomites, just like or places that were colonized by certain parts of these Edomites. Just like you go down to the islands, right, Bahamas and Virgin Islands and different places, Jamaica. A lot of them are British colonies, or used to be British colonies. Just like when you look at Haiti. What was Haiti? Haiti was a French until they got their independence. They were colonized by the French. Same as when you go down to Hispaniola, which is Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Certain places down there, they used to be colonies of the Spanish. So these damn devils done divided us up all over the world. You got to be able to see that. But if you can't, maybe in time you'll see it, but if not, oh well. Anyway, back to the article. Most of these troops came from the French North African possessions, while around 20% were from French West Africa. Influenced by Nazi racial ideology, German troops summarily killed between 1,000 and 1,500 black prisoners in May and June 1940. Unlike their white compatriots, the colonial prisoners of war were imprisoned in Frontstalags in France instead of being brought to Germany. Although they kept colonial troops in France on the pretext of preventing the spread of tropical diseases, the Germans also wanted to prevent the racial defilement Rassenschande of German women outlawed by the Nuremberg laws of 1935. Following the Allied landings in Normandy in June 1944, the African troops interned in these Frontstalags prisoners camps all over France were liberated by advancing Allied troops and subsequently repatriated to French West Africa. So if you fought in World War II, right, and you were taken hostage, or in these particular troops, they were taken, prisoners of war. When the American troops, or when the Allied troops, which is the coalition of troops, the Edomites, fighting against the Germans, America, Britain, Russia, and certain others, when they fought against Russia and Italy and those other troops did I say Russia? I meant Germany. Germany, when they fought against Germany and Italy and Poland and certain other troops, because when you go back into that history, it was a division of the Edomites, and they was fighting one another in World War III. You also had the Japanese as an ally of theirs as well. You were freed, right, by the Allied troops. But then what happened? You got repatriated or sent back to your own country. See, but then but during that time is when they didn't get their pay. When you read into this article, it says on November 5th or on 5 November, a group of 1,635 of these former prisoners of war embarked in Morlaix on the British ship Circassia. They landed in Dakar on 21 November and were temporarily assigned to the military camp of Thyroid. So they went to a military camp, right? And they had been prisoners. Ever since liberation, discontent had been growing among the former prisoners. The utter disorganization of French authorities had led to several delays concerning their repatriation. More importantly, they had not yet received their demobilization benefits, which was their money, their pay, and only 1,500 francs advance had been awarded to them before they had embarked. So imagine you done did all this fighting, you done seen people die, you damn near got killed, and then you get locked into a military prison by the enemy thinking you're going to die. Then you get free, now you want your money. Other matters of contention.
Which the scripture say what? Let not the sun go down upon your workers' wages. Let not the sun go down upon their wages. See, this so-called white man, he's quick to quote the Bible and act as if he believes in it, and he's quick to call himself a Christian. Meanwhile, he doesn't uphold the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible. As it is written, he casteth my words behind him. All right, Psalm the 50th chapter, starting at verse 16 on down. All right, he really doesn't believe in this Bible. All right, even you're not even supposed to get checks every 2 weeks or every week. No, you're really supposed to get paid for the work that was done every day. Scripture say, let not the sun go down upon their wages. All right, so you got to make sure you pay them. They did the work. That's just like saying, someone that labors for you. Let's say they're let's say you agree to pay them, let's say $50 a day, or let's say let's use something a little bit better. Let's say you're going to pay them $250 a day, all right, to help set up the infrastructure in your house, right? Now, let's say he does work for day number 1, right? So you owe him $250, but then you don't pay him. Then day number 2, you expect him to come in, right? He comes in and works. You don't pay him, so that's what, $500, right? Then day 3, you expect him to come in, but you'd have taught this guy, I'll pay you at the end of the week, But here it is, it's day 3. Day 3, he don't show up. The guy ends up, in heavy debt, or he ends up dying. That money could have went a long way for him. He had 2 days to use that $500. See? So that's the thing of wickedness, all right? A lot of times you may need money immediately, but you're like, man, I gotta wait. I just did this work. I gotta wait to get paid on this such and such day. That's wicked. You're really supposed to get your money the same day, according to the law. Looking forward to a check that's supposed to be coming in the next week. Meanwhile, you got a debt that's currently due, and that money could have resolved that debt. Or an individual wants his shekels that he worked for, but he has to wait for it. But then the guy ends up dying and never gets that money.
Included the exchange rates between the metropolitan French franc and the local colonial franc, as well as issues regarding savings made during their internment and their right to demobilization closed. And you know how shit is when you deal with these Edomites. They already got you locked in a separate prison. They don't want to pay you the same amount as they're going to pay the Edomites. And then on top of that, you got exchange rates coming into play. So, you can easily see how shit got tense. On 25 November, a group that was supposed to depart for Bamako, on that same day refused to leave Thyroid until the matter was settled. This act of disobedience prompted Brigadier General Marcel Dagnan to visit the camp on 28 November. During his visit, Dagnan was shocked by the hostility he encountered. Why would you be shocked? You got them in shitty conditions. You don't want to give them their clothes, their money, nothing, right? You know they wasn't getting the proper food. Why would you be shocked at the hostility? It says his car was damaged and he claimed he had been close to being taken hostage by the men he declared the camp an open mutiny and decided to make a show of force to bring back under his authority. So, you know, just Edomites dressing shit up. They dressing it up what it really was. You didn't want to pay the men their money. You treated them like shit after they risked their lives, and you regarded them as less than human. So you killed them. That's what happened. You killed them. See, they go in here to confrontation and telling you all of that. We can read briefly here. It's just lies. You know these damn devils slaughtered these people. On the morning of 1 December at 6:30 a.m., 3 companies of the 1st Regiment of Senegalese Tirailleurs and the 7th Regiment of Senegalese Tirailleurs, backed by elements from local national gendarmerie units, elements from the 6th.
Yeah, which ultimately, you can never trust this devil. All right, ultimately, no matter where you're at, no matter where these Edomites are at, all right, you can never trust this guy. All right, whether they're in America, whether you're in France, whether you're in Spain, whether you're in Italy, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Germany, wherever these Edomites are at, they're always going to carry over that hatred, all right, against you Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Why? Because the Heavenly Father has put enmity between the two, all right, and that has never changed, all right? No matter where you go, no matter where you're at, all right, if these Edomites are present, they're not going to like you, all right? They may smile in your face, but behind closed doors, they despise you, all right? They despise you. They're not your friend, all right? And this proves it.
Regiment of Colonial Artillery and 1 M3 Stuart light tank entered the military camp in an attempt to end the rebellion. Why was it a rebellion? The men obviously had demands, and you didn't want to meet their demands because you looked at them as less than nothing. That's all it has ever been with Edomites, and it's no different whether it's French Edomites, it's British Edomites, Spanish Edomites, Italian Edomites, or fucking American Edomites, which is no such thing as Americans, because really they all came up out of these different, the original 7 heads of the Edomite Empire: French, German, Spanish, Italian, and English. That's really what it was, and also Greek. That's all it's ever been. These different, various languages these Edomites spoke from the different lands, that they come from. According to official reports, at around 7:30, one of the mutineers pulled a knife but was soon disarmed. At around 8:45, a gunshot was heard but made no victim. They're gonna fudge the numbers, man. The deadly confrontation occurred around 9:30 a.m. Accounts vary regarding what ignited the gunfight. According to some versions, it began when one of the mutineers opened fire from one of the barracks, while other versions put the blame on a warning shot fired by a soldier of the repression force to intimidate the mutineers. And the mutineers, when you deal with a mutiny, is when you attempt to overthrow or take over. Let's look it up and say here, mutineers. You see here on a ship.
So we got the point of the lesson, So these devils, they're always going to harbor that hatred against you Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. All right? And like the Elder Manatazakba said, it's going to be very difficult to actually find every exact detail as to what happened. But regardless, we understand that we know that this devil hates us, and he has a perpetual hatred, all right, for the children of Israel. All right, point blank, period. All right? Now, Esau, he can try to spin the story however he likes, but ultimately, this situation never would have happened if they were being treated on the same level as the so-called white man. All right? You gave the so-called white man his wages, give the so-called black man his wages. You owe him a certain amount of money, make sure he gets paid that certain amount of money. All right? If he was living in the same conditions as the so-called white man, not being treated poorly as a so-called white man, there wouldn't have been no mutiny. See? Leave it up to the devil to try to spin the narrative, which ultimately, this devil, he's ashamed. All right? He's ashamed. Scriptures say, shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory. That shameful spewing is Esau's skullduggery, his wickedness coming out. That brings this devil great shame. That's why when you bring up the topic of slavery, they put their heads down, or they walk away, or they deflect. Oh, that wasn't me. That was my forefathers. Well, you are your forefathers. That's why they so passionately teach against reincarnation. And this devil, ultimately, he doesn't like taking accountability. All right, here it is, you did wickedness. You're going to be judged for the wickedness, but then you don't want to pay for it. Isn't that something? You know? And that's the nature of this devil. No matter where you are, Esau will still see you the same. No matter how much money you have, Esau will still see you as being beneath him. All right? No matter where you go, those curses do indeed follow. All right? It says, cursed shalt thou be the city. Any city that you're at, you're going to be cursed. And cursed shalt thou be the field. Matthew the 13th chapter tells us the field is the world. All right? So no matter where Jake is cursed. Point blank period. And once again, this shows you that the so-called white man, he's not your friend. He is your enemy. Psalm the 83rd chapter, he's the first nation listed as your enemy. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. I pray this lesson was edifying. All praise, honors, and glories be to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, Bashim HaKodesh. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Ray Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.